Hello everybody and welcome, it's me, GhostCritic. It's time for a Sunday comic book review video, and this video is brought to you by artificial light. Yes, the nights are drawing in now, I'm afraid, so it's back on with the lights and less of the natural sunshine that makes me look good. Oh well. I'm going to kick straight off this week because I've got 9 books to talk about, and I'm kind of disappointed that I have to put this one at the bottom this week. It is XMen Blue, issue number, I think it's 13, and it's not for the reasons that you might imagine. Don't care about the lenticular cover and the kind of 90s throwback. I'm a little bit peeved that this is actually part 2 of what I'm guessing is some sort of X crossover, because this is part 2 of this latest story, Mojo Worldwide. I'm irked about the whole legacy thing, especially with this book, because if you're reading it, you know it's about the teenage X-Men, the team that were the original X-Men, that were children, and somehow Hank McCoy in the present as Beast brought them to the present, and they decided to stay or couldn't go back, can't quite remember. But if this is your first issue with the whole legacy little indent on it, I don't think Mojo World is your first go-to to show that these characters have that legacy characteristic about them. There are much earlier storylines that they could have picked on. I'm not saying that this wasn't bad. It's got Jorge Molina on art, and it's just great. It's comic booky art style, which I loved. He did a lot of the Wolverine and the X-Men, which I really enjoyed back 3 or 4 years ago now, probably. Time flies. And you get a character that I don't think I've seen in the X titles for quite a while, and that's the return of Longshot. You've got Mojo World, you're going to have Longshot turning up at one point. So it kind of annoyed me that this is what we had. We've got pretty much all the X-Men split up into different teams. They've all been kind of trapped in these kind of mojo domes on Earth because, well, basically, the ratings aren't doing very well in for Mojo in his universe, so he's decided to bring his brand of TV entertainment to Earth to bolster his ratings and kind of take over Earth. And so our teenagers are kind of split up already now. We have Bloodstorm, who was one of the Hexmen from the last storyline. Well, she doesn't last long. It was going to be a bit weird having kind of 2 different versions of Storm running around our regular Marvel 616 universe, and Colin Byrne has made sure that that isn't going to be the case, and you'll know why when you read this book. It's lots of action, there's lots of fighting, there's lots of kind of classic heroes and villains for them to go up against. Sentinels are in there, and then it really does, right at the very end, take them right back where we have them about to face Magneto, and there is already that that kind of weird relationship that our young teenagers have with Magneto at the moment in kind of present day, because they're not sure what he's really up to, and should they be having him as their leader, so to speak, sending them out on missions and the like. But I don't know, this was a kind of a little bit of a misfire for me. I would think that perhaps I'm going to miss out on this whole story if the next part of this is somewhere else on another X title. Is it going to bother me that much? No, we shall just move on, as we will with the next comic. Now, it was a toss-up between X-Men Blue and this issue as to what was going to be at the bottom of the pile, the one that I least enjoyed of my pull list from Wednesday. And really because this is just almost an origin story for Blindspot, but doesn't really explain anything. This is the start of, the middle of a three-part story. Is it the Land of the Blind? I need to remember. I need to look at these before I actually bring them up. Yes, it is the Land of the Blind. My apologies. It's the middle part. And we get this very lengthy origin story about Blindspot. But it's sketchy to say the least. He doesn't really know where he was born. He doesn't know who his father is. He gets taken to America. It's a struggle. We get it. He goes to this weird school that he's very adept at. He's basically a version almost of Echo, but male, in that he picks up things very quickly and not necessarily apes them, but is just very good at accomplishing the feat in front of him. And of course he tells about how he turned up, and he's part of this kind of superhero legacy, and he's a sidekick of Daredevil, and you get the impression as we're going through this, as he recants this story to Daredevil, who's been caged, but he may not be as bad as he first appears, and it looks as though he's actually under duress. Let us say that, and he's kind of letting Matt know in a very kind of surreptitious way that he needs his help. It's not the case, and that's the only thing that kind of elevated this from being just a really bog standard story that deserves to be this far down. Was the twist that no, this was even like another kick in the gut for Daredevil, who doesn't even really know how long he's been caged for. There's a mysterious kind of, I guess, sleeping gas, but we know some time has gone since he was imprisoned, because now he's got all this facial hair. He's got almost a full beard going on. And then we have this strange demon character that I don't know, has it really been explained? But it's all just a bit of it silly nonsense. And I wanted something a little bit more. It started off strong. Now knowing that this is only a three-part storyline, I feel like it's going to be rushed, because I think they want to push through the next storyline of, which is all over the comic book websites, that Wilson Fisk is going to be the mayor of New York City, and obviously that's going to make him come up against Daredevil, and I'm guessing that's the storyline that they want to rush to. So they're not really doing this particular issue, this particular story arc, any justice. We'll see how it ends. I mean, it's not as if I'm giving up on this title. Charles Soule has done a pretty good job over the last 26 or so issues, and I'm sure he'll do good stuff coming up in the future. But this just felt like a little bit of a dip, a little bit of a rest for Charles Soule and Ron Garney, although the art in this is really nice as well. I like Ron Garney doing all these great kind of landscapes, but also really the claustrophobic nature that Matt Murdock Daredevil is in within the cage as well. So that's Daredevil, which this week really did deserve to be this low. And it's issue 36 of James Tynion's The Woods, which just happens to be the final issue. And here's another one where do I feel that it really should be this high in the kind of pecking order of this week's book? But I just felt I needed to give it that extra little bit of encouragement, I guess. Not that there's another issue to get encouraged about. But this pretty much ended how I guessed it would, in the sense that we're not really going to get a fallout from what happened at the end of this. As I've said in so many other reviews of The Woods, is that one, this has been a roller coaster of a ride where James Tynion really hasn't found a way to pace his books where it's all kind of like gliding up to your climax and then crushing us back down and then having to go back up. Not the kind of ride I was hoping for on this book. But we've reached its final climax. There is all the kind of tribes, I guess you call them, from this prison world that have got together for the final battle. You've got all the students all in their own little separate places, causing either diversions or overtaking this computer program planet, and at the end of it, I guess they win, they overcome. I'm not really spoiling this because I don't think anybody else kept with this book and is still reading it, so will not be upset by the spoilers in this particular video. And I can't imagine what I've said about it is really going to make anybody else go out and read it themselves, which sounds awful. I've spent like 36 issues on this, and I just would never recommend this to anyone, really. How strange is that? But yes, it kind of leads right at the very end. You have them appearing to go home. There's that kind of white light that they're heading towards, and then that's it. That's the final curtain. You don't know how they're going to be received at the other side, how their lives are going to have been changed from this adventure, for want of a better phrase. And I guess that's a good way in some respects, because then you as the reader take that journey yourself, if you even really want to, about how you think all these pupils that were abducted from their school, how they're going to cope now. What relationship are they going to have with each other in the future? So it's a goodbye to The Woods now, goodbye to James Tynion, and a goodbye to Boom Studios for a while. I don't think I have another title on my pull list from Boom Studios. Have to look out for something new along the way. Next up, it's issue 32 of James Robinson's Wonder Woman, Children of the Gods. And I don't know how much all this is affecting the DC universe as a whole, or if it's intermingling into other titles, but for those of you reading Wonder Woman, you saw at the end of last issue the death of Hercules, which I guess in a way is her uncle. I don't know where we're grasping this from now. We had Rucker doing the main storyline about the origins, about what was real and what wasn't, and why there were so many different origins. And I don't know, because I didn't really read, and I only kind of dipped in and out of the New 52 Wonder Woman, but I know it dealt a lot more with the gods, Zeus and all those, the Greek gods, I don't know whether this is intermingling, using bits of that to what is essentially, for James Robinson's new outing on Wonder Woman, an excuse to introduce a brother for Wonder Woman, as Hercules has a fondness for Wonder Woman all of a sudden. Again, I'd like to know if he's ever mentioned her in any other comic book that he's ever been in. Please let me know down in the comments section. But he has a great fondness for her, so much that he wrote a very heartfelt letter to her and left all his worldly belongings to her, and also obviously the coordinates to where she may find her brother. And so she goes off with this. There's something going on with this kind of lawyer guy. He seems a little bit too sketchy for my liking. But where will this go? How will Wonder Woman react to this idea that she now has a brother? Here he is on the last panel, looking incredibly masculine and sexy and strong. Which, is he going to become a new superhero? Are Wonder Woman and him going to team up and become a duo? There is something here. There's got to be something more to it. There's obviously in the background the kind of B plot, I guess you'd call it, which is why I want to know, is this happening in other titles? The idea of all these people getting killed, but through the use of the kind of apocalypse power, and obviously the idea that Darkseid must be behind it all in some shape or form, because we had him in a kind of boy teenager type age. I don't know what that's about either, which hasn't helped a reader of DC that, well, I don't read a lot of DC anymore, so fill me in, people, all you DC heads out there, let me know what is going on. Issue 32 of DC's The Flash only creeps up marginally in my list of most enjoyed comic books this week, only because it's kicking off a new storyline that is going to be interesting in how Joshua Williams is going to work this story within the kind of Flash environment. Barry Allen and his kind of work colleague has been cast out of their CSI department, kind of, and they now have to work cases within Iron Heights, which is this ultra secure, over the top prison for the baddest of the bad. And so, because it's so security conscious and it has so many security technology, how is Barry Allen going to switch, if he has to at any point, to the Flash without being seen? Though we see at the end of this character, I can't even remember how she kind of turned out to be alive again. I'm going to have to look back again. But we have the return of Mina, his kind of erstwhile girlfriend, was for a little bit perhaps, until he thought she was dead, but she wasn't. But she's managed to whisk him out of Iron Heights without being seen, which is an interesting point. How is she going to fit into this whole storyline? But there is the kind of underlying theme that something is wrong at Iron Heights. We have a guy who's running it, and he's like ultra authoritative, but at the same time he allows the prisoners to, you know, start fights with each other, and he watches it and sees how it goes before breaking it up with big kind of guys in robot suits. It's all very interesting. Where Joshua is going to take this, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of interested, and it's kind of interesting to see Barry not using the Flash outfit. He is kind of trying to cope with holding back the negative power force that's going through his flash powers at the moment, and I guess it's tied to his emotions, so he has to one, keep calm for a start, but just keep them in check so it doesn't do so much damage that it has in previous issues that we've read. Still fun stuff, lots of talking in this, not much of a chance for artist Ducci to do anything much with, apart from have people standing around, though we do have a kind of prison fight scene for him to get a little bit excited about. Our final book from DC this week is issue 3 of the current fan favourite, Mr. Miracle, from Tom King and Mitch Gerads on art. And it's so frustrating. It's not that it's not good, it's not that it's not drawing me in, and I must be getting something out of it because I will stick with this, because I need to know what's real and what's not, because so much of this I'm just like, something's not right here. And it's not only shown in that kind of storyline as spoilers, we have the apparent death of Granny Goodness. I just can't believe that this is real and that they would kill the character off with Orion giving it the final slash of the knife around her throat. But just the characters that kind of pop up all the time. We get a little kind of glimpse of Forager chatting to Scott Free on the sofa, and 1 minute he's doing his super escape artist thing we have here, and the next he's having kind of dinner at a cafe, outside a cafe with Big Barda, and they've got a fan who wants to have a photo with them taken. It takes some time to let this book soak in, and I don't know if I have that patience. It looks fantastic. If you're a fan of the whole 9-page grid that the kind of Watchmen made famous, then you will love this. If you're not, this is going to be a nightmare for you, because every single page is the 9-panel grid. But I think Gerads does a great job using it throughout, uses it to great effect. The 9-panel grid is almost gives you that kind of uneasy feeling. It doesn't feel natural, because we are so used to in our other comic books where the layouts are so non-traditional. They are kind of breaking into other panels. They are taking up the page right to the end, rather than having the white border around every single panel. And it just gives it that kind of unnatural feeling, which adds to the weirdness of the book. It's going to be one of those titles where I'm probably going to have to reread it from the start, or reread issues again and again to pick up the nuances of this. But it deserves, in a way, the excitement. It's something new. It's something not necessarily fresh, but it's not the norm that DC are throwing out there at the moment. And with it being in its, whether this is in its kind of main continuity DC history, I don't know, but it's a brave move from DC to have it so different than the kind of superhero stuff that's going on in their main titles. It feels like it should be a Young Animal or a kind of Vertigo book even. But it's nice to see one of Jack Kirby's creations getting a kind of a revamp, for modern age readers, and hopefully the likes of this will have people looking back at Kirby's original work and finding Kirby's work an inspiration and a joy, as we all do. Talking of unnerving and disturbing, we've got Redlands issue number 3, written by Jordie Bellaire with Vanessa Del Rey and Clayton Cowles. And I'm not even going to try and make out if you can see this cover. It's so dark. But if you have an actual copy in your hand, it does look fantastic as we see these crocodiles or alligators coming and swimming out into the swamp, coming for us, and they do play a part in this issue as we see a kind of secret tryst, I guess you call it, between a bounty hunter, this guy down here, and one of our witches living out in the swamp, making sweet love on the top of a car bonnet. But the surprise for this is that it moved incredibly quickly with this whole serial killer. I thought they may have dragged that out a little bit, but we already have him captured by the bounty hunter, and I'm guessing he's dead because the alligators were hungry that night. The overall feel of this is fantastic. I like the darkness about it. It kind of feels like the early days of True Blood, but without the whole vampire nonsense. It has that kind of HBO TV feel to it, which Jordie Bellaire may or may not be thinking about in if Redlands is to last for a while. TV beckons. But it's just an awesome read. This serial killer, he doesn't go down well, and he basically has his nuts bitten off by the dog before falling into the swamp, which I just thought was hilarious in a dark and humorous kind of way. But as I saw in the last issue, these Redland issues seems to have a lot of backup material. Okay, the last ones were just basically paintings of basically the colour red. But this one has a lot of art, kind of newspaper cutout articles about the monsters and gator clans and gator men that are, and demons of the light that are apparently seen in the woods. So it's got that kind of monsters in the woods type of feel to it. Are they real? Are they not? The local residents are probably, it's all superstitious nonsense, but it is actually all going on. Again, this is another of those books where who am I meant to be rooting for, as the witches aren't exactly the nicest of people, and they are themselves, although they're using it for these kind of rituals to make them younger and I guess immortal, they're still not that nicer people to be around. They're not our heroes of the book, but they are intriguing enough. And why do we need a hero in a book? We can just have some horribly nasty type people who we don't particularly like and still have a great interesting story, and I think that's what Bellaire and Vanessa Del Rey have achieved in this, that I'm not necessarily behind these characters, but I'm willing to go along on the ride and hopefully see their downfalls, because nice people, they're not nice people, not nice things should happen to them. Rick Remender's Black Science issue 32 just missed out on pick of the week this week, as the action ramps up even more so in our great sci-fi epic that I've just loved from the very first issue. Pia trying to take down this kind of cacophony of kind of evil bad guys that have come through the pillar at one time or another that they have had to fight against. So we've got the kind of the space ghosts, we've got the serpents, we've got Chandra, who has kind of turned over to the evil side, evil kind of monkey, bat, squirrel things flying everywhere. It's just chaos, but it's fun chaos. It's almost in the hands of Remender and Matteo Scalera. It's controlled chaos. I'm not confused about anything that's going on. It's action packed. It's a big movie blockbuster fight, big battle scene with unfathomable odds that you just think this is not going to end up well, and it yet might not, even though in this issue Pia finally managed to at least get rid of these kind of the space ghosts that have taken over everybody that they touch. She manages to rid them. I don't know whether she kills them all or dissipates them. Will they ever come back? But the point here that elevated this book to so high is we finally get the showdown between Grant and Nadia. Nadia has taken Grant's wife as his own. He has the best intentions, as most kind of villainous kind of characters think they have, but they just go about it in the worst possible way. Now Grant is back. He wants his piece of flesh as he comes to not only save his wife, but I think it's going to be a dukes up between these two, and I can't wait for the next issue to see these two try and take each other down. What is actually going to happen? It was very tense at the end there with the whole relationship with Nadia and Grant's wife, who has just she's basically had enough and she wants to leave, but he is not going to let her under any circumstances. And like I said, he's going about it the whole wrong way. The words come out in a kind of loving, nurturing, I want to give you the very best that Grant could not. But at the same option, his actual physicality, him grabbing her, him slapping her across the face, says otherwise. And it's just done so well, paced so fantastic by Remender, and Scalero does no wrong again. And so we land on pick of the week, which I'm sure a few of you will by now have worked out, and I'm glad to see it returned, even if we have gone back some 20 odd years. It's Royal City. It's issue number 6. Welcome return to Jeff Lemire's latest indie owned project, where he does everything story, art, colouring, the lot. I love this so much. I was briefly talking about it to someone in the comments section on Wednesday's video, in that, you know, it doesn't always have to be about the superheroes. They have their place in our comic book world, and it's great to have them there. But sometimes you just want a comic book like this that is relatable, is kind of down to earth. And as I said in the comments, it's weird because despite this being about such a dysfunctional family, I feel so soothed by this book. It's a strange feeling, but it's a beautiful, wonderful feeling, and I just can't wait to have the next issue of Jeff Lemire's Royal City in my hands month after month. So having been away for so long, I've kind of pined for it somewhat, and I wasn't let down at its return. Yes, we've gone back to the 90s and we're seeing all the siblings and the mother and the father of this family and what they were doing 20 odd years ago. And of course, they're all kind of younger versions. It's kind of like the the seed of what they will become. So you have our see, there's a lot of characters, forgotten all their names, but we have the guy here who's the writer who came back to visit his dad in the first story arc. Yes, he's the kind of the bookish character, writing, and everyone makes fun of him. You've got the surly, rebellious brother who wants to go out partying and have sex and drink alcohol all the time. You've got the sister who looks after the younger brother, Tommy. Yes, we all know it's Tommy. Just got to remember these three names. But it's obviously Tommy who we're kind of focusing on, and hopefully through the next few issues we're going to see why Tommy died at such a young age. And we're already getting clues as to what could potentially be happening as he suffers from these debilitating headaches, and no one seems to know what they are yet. But what Lemire does so well in here, he gives this issue a time and a place. We know this is the 90s, the way they dress, the way they talk, the music they're listening to, which is a big thing for Jeff Lemire. Not only does, if you read the back, he does these kind of compilation tapes. You can get them on Spotify. But he does like track listings in the back here for you to do yourselves, and not only because he's doing all these, you get them on the back cover, but you can get a full one on the alternative cover. But he's doing these album covers, the classic. This is clearly Nirvana's Nevermind. The one with the baby, but they've replaced it with Tommy on the cover. It just feels so 90s, which is kind of refreshing because everyone seems to be doing 80s at the moment. You get a lot of 80s vibes from a lot of Image comic books. So it's nice to have the 90s represented for a change, and all the music that clearly Jeff Lemire loves and wants people to love, like Nirvana, like the Pixies, the Clash, and all those kind of like rock bands, the grunge scene that was just coming up to in the 90s. Overall, just a fantastic return for Royal City. I'm guessing there is a volume 1 trade out. Please go and buy that. Not that I think that this isn't a good jumping on point, but you'd be missing out on so much great stuff that this issue, that this title has to offer. Please, please, please go pick up this book. Keep it going for as long as Jeff Lemire wants to tell his story, and doesn't have to finish it too soon. And that's it for my books this week. Thank you for staying with me. Let me know what your pick of the week was this week, what you thought of the books that I was reading. If you have a disagreement with me, if you think I'm wrong about something, please let me know in the comments section down below, and we'll discuss it mano mano. Until next week, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe so you don't miss out any more. Bye bye.